Jeff. That was a very inspiring talk. You've given us lots of ideas. You've covered a lot of ground there, and we now have time for questions. Now, as always, as you know, we have a fair number of colleagues who are contributing to the conference online, and we'll be happy to take questions too from our virtual delegates to the conference. If you're in the hall, please raise your hand if you have a question, and we do have roving mics, and if you wait until the mic comes to you, we'll then allow everyone to hear your question, whether they're here or whether they're listening in online. So, I'll open the floor for questions. There's one up here, and another one up here. Okay? I think we'll start with this one.
Hello, Jim Harris from the University of Northampton. Extremely interested in the fact that there was an underlying feeling of what we can do to influence policy rather than simply we're just introducing new technology. One of the biggest problems that we've had is what we term cave dwellers, colleagues against virtually everything. Do you believe that there will still be people living in a cave in 2025?
I try to avoid using words like resistant to change and Luddites and all that, particularly Luddites because it's historically wrong, but resistant to change. I tend to try to take a more generous view, I suppose, and that's that people who teach are cautious of change that might result in an educational experience that fails or is damaging. In other words, big experiments you avoid, but small experiments you might do. Unsupported experiments and explorations you are even more wary of than supported and assisted. And that's why I think that one of the things that we've actually got to find a way of doing, and this is a policy decision for institutions, is scaling up the amount of pedagogical and technological support that there is for faculty. Because I don't believe there are very many who truly are cave dwellers in the pejorative sense that word's meant. I think that the vast majority are agnostic or are cautious or are wary or actually, quite realistically, are time limited. And the question is, how can you remove those challenges from those individuals, and then you will always be left with very, very late adopters, non-adopters. And the answer to them may be that with time they will disappear. But I think I'm optimistic in the sense that I think the number is small. My experience is that the number of people who are prepared to experiment with the right support are quite large. And actually what was interesting is if you look at the universities that have experimented with MOOCs, you see that absolutely, that people who have never done online stuff before have come forward and said, I would like to do one. And the reason is that they know they will get good, solid support to do it. And so the question is, how can one do that, even for the sort of the bog standard within the university teaching setting? And a lot of this comes down to capacity in terms of instructional design or learning technology, I think. And that does cost money. So it does require an investment, I think, to help that happen.